Welcome to the Gentleman's Guide to the Accursed. Imagine your mind being in a permanent state of wakefulness. You cannot switch off, you cannot sleep, you cannot even meditate to prevent that permanent buzz that keeps going in your head, because it wants something. It's an engine that craves fuel. We're not talking about a hungry family of accursed today. We're talking about a sorcerer family. A family just as addicted to a substance as those blood-drenched vampires, though they would tell you otherwise. They would say that they just have an appetite for the greatest prey. The family that we're talking about is the Archivists, and their prey is knowledge itself. I've already spoken about other families that have a, shall we say, severe interest in the accumulation of knowledge. The Nephilim, primary among them, though we've also spoken about the Network, who have a similar interest in sense, and also, to a degree, a certain slice of knowledge goes to the Hydes. But the Archivists are probably the accursed most compelled to accumulate, to study, to deny other people access to that intelligence. They want the world's secrets. They want the world's greatest libraries, and they don't see the need to share. They want to lock it away from those who don't deserve it. And you know something? They're pretty good at it. The first archivists are believed to have emerged around the time of the burning of the Library of Alexandria. Now, depending on the story you hear, you could be looking at around 48 BCE, you could be looking at around 642 CE. The library came under fire more than once. We will go with the BCE, because it ties better to the tale, though how true it is depends on whether you believe the storyteller. Now, these hedge magicians, for at the time that's all they were, hedge magicians. They weren't sorcerers as we know them today. They were the masters of the written word, of the scroll, of storage of secrets, of lies and truths. And their lofty charge was the safeguarding of knowledge. They were the wardens of the Library of Alexandria, at least if you believe the tale. These archivists were dedicated to their task, sworn to it, and sworn to the degree that if they ever failed in their task, if they ever relinquished the protection that they were set to provide, all of this accumulated lore, this knowledge, these secrets, then they would be damned for an eternity. So they diligently worked. Like many a monk, they sacrificed, they eschewed everything that might have brought them worldly pleasure in favour of the knowledge. But their mistress, a queen of some renown, she was beyond the library walls. She was not permitted to enter, and it is said that she wanted something vital from within. She wanted something forbidden from within the Library of Alexandria, for it is said that there were scrolls within, papyrus written, that these records would give her instruction as to how to access an epoch, one of those rarest of liminalities, a time-locked space, a place where the timeline diverged. She wanted to access that epoch and undo something. Specifically, it was the invasion of Rome over her Egyptian kingdom. She wanted to identify the flaws within Egypt. She wanted to plug them all within this epoch. She wanted to prevent the fall of Egypt to Rome, and by doing so, save her kingdom. Keep it Egyptian, if you like. Now, the archivists, they may not have been full-fledged sorcerers at this time, but they knew what the penalty for this would be because they had read up widely on liminal spaces and the powers that they could contain, epochs especially among them. They knew that if this queen was able to do what she wanted, if she was able to assemble a curse of her own to enact this will, that it could wreak havoc upon their world. It would destroy the universe as they knew it, remaking the fabric of reality, potentially cutting off one timeline from another permanently. And they couldn't allow this, because perhaps more than their task to safeguard knowledge, as in to keep it stored and fresh and immune from rot and bugs and other such maladies, they were not permitted to release information that might, in their mind, damage humanity. But they knew that this queen had an army, forces that far outnumbered their own. They were scholars, they were monks, they would not be able to defend themselves, they would not be able to defend the library, their resistance would be paltry at best, and even if they somehow hid the scrolls away, eventually they would succumb to torture. They would reveal to this queen where this knowledge was. They may not even have to. The eldest among them knew these secrets, and they would divulge them under enough interrogation. So they did what they felt they had to do. They started the fire. The rumours that the Romans burned down the Library of Alexandria are counter to these rumours that the archivists burned it down themselves, because in their mind, this queen, her army, their people did not deserve it. The only people deserving of the secrets were the archivists themselves. Now, most of these archivists, proto-archivists, died in the fire. They burned to ash along with the knowledge that they treasured so dearly. And you might argue they are the ones who got off most lightly. Because the few that stumbled free, maybe one, maybe only one, they were damned because they destroyed the knowledge that they were tasked with safeguarding. By the time the fire was out, the queen and her army had departed, and there's one, maybe two, maybe three archivists. Maybe they were the only ones left. They still had the knowledge in their heads, but now they had sorcery at their disposal. Now, I know what you're thinking. If this is where the archivists were born, in a noble act, does not this make them the most noble of sorcerous families? Well, you'll notice that the archivists don't take the normal sorcerer's path of having formed a pact with some eldritch being for great power. They position themselves as martyrs, that they sacrificed their greatest treasure trove to safeguard humanity. Convenient, I'm sure you'll agree. These days, the archivists still enjoy putting themselves across as martyrs. Their complex persists, and they still love hoarding knowledge. They believe that through knowledge, they grow in mind and spirit. They believe that through knowledge, they might control the universe. That knowledge, it isn't the exclusive purview of gods, of queens, or of monsters. No, it's their exclusive power. Their exclusive purview. This is what you need to remember. For all of their talk of self-sacrifice, and they do sacrifice their own minds to learn secrets that are forbidden, to discover truths that most of us will never know. They don't do it to make the world a better place. They do it to increase their power, the power that they have at their disposal. It's an interesting formula, however. The archivists won't tell you this, but secrets are what they expect others to sacrifice to them, but what they sacrifice in turn in order to gain more secrets. They maintain this balancing act by reckoning with what they know and what they are prepared to learn. They evaluate what is useful and what is useless, and when it comes time to learn something new, when they believe that it is time for them to take something and keep it within themselves and within themselves only, they will decide on something that will no longer be secretive, that will no longer be a knowledge kept only to the sorcerer family. They will release it. They will announce it publicly. They will go on the internet and post it somewhere where others can find it. They sacrifice their own knowledge to gain greater knowledge, making room for secrets they would deny to the rest of the world. You could see it as a house with a limited amount of rooms. That is, in some archivist philosophy, how the archivists see magic, that there is only a limited amount of it to go around, so they have to chop bits off. And that means they're constantly evaluating. What do we know? Sometimes that comes down to a very physical archive. They will look through the archive and they will think, well, the secret coming down the pipe is going to be something quite substantial. What we have just fought for, what we have just explored for, the liminalities that we have just exploited, we are about to excavate all of their greatest secrets, but we know that to maintain hold on them, to continue using our magic, to expand our capacity for magic, we're going to have to get rid of some of these files. Well, these ones haven't been looked at in about 200 years, and I don't think anyone's alive now who will care over much. So they extract that bit about 18th century France, and they extract these annals, these tales that were told by Native Americans to their children in the late 19th century, now forgotten, and they will either publish it or they will destroy it, depending on the individual archivist's whim. The point being that they lose it as well. Some of them will remember, some of them will lose their memories, sure, but most of them, they will take the time to read it first and then they will get rid of any record. Others purge it from their minds themselves, because the archivists don't just have great warehouses filled with filing cabinets, they have their minds, they have the magic that circulates within it. This constant flow of knowledge, some in, some out, energizes them, fueling their sorcery and capacity to interrogate others. Oh yeah, among the sorcerers, there are few interrogators quite as proficient in the art of extraction than the archivists. I know one, Yevgeny Kamenev, whose history ties him to the Stasi. He was a teacher for the East German secret police, teaching them the best possible ways to, beat and squeeze answers out of possible subversives. And those kinds of secrets are worth an awful lot to an archivist, to someone working in a police state. Now he's heralded as one of the wisest masters from this family. He's been dark since the war started, leading many Western archivists to wonder if finally he got a share of his own desserts, so to speak, as it is known that he has had a friendly relationship with intelligentsia all over the world, and there are certain authority figures in Russia today that don't approve of such things. But I believe he's still there. I'm fairly certain that old Yevgeny is there whispering secrets into the ear of a particular autocrat or one of his hand servants. The kinds of people who are addicted to flattery and the kinds of secrets that tell them that a war-winning superweapon is just around the corner. The archivists are experts on liminalities because they wrote, studied, or hid every text written about them. For a time in the 1970s and 1980s, the archivists compulsively hoarded National Enquirers, Reader's Digests, because they would see stories being published about the kinds of things they thought were their secrets to hold. Money pits, El Dorados, other such legends and mysteries. It took them quite some time to realize that, no, it's okay. This blanket of popular luridness is actually a good form of cover. These people reading about these things don't actually believe them. So as long as they have the actual answers and what's published in the papers, on the internet, announced in news series or Discovery Channel series, they remember when the Discovery Channel and the History Channel used to be good and have research documentaries, and they love the fact that an actual history documentary can now be interlaced with something about UFOs, because they know about all of these things. They know where the money pit is. They know how to reach El Dorado. They know all about Atlantis. They know all about the UFOs in Area 51. They know these fables, but they know the truth of these fables, where everyone else is just talking about the urban legends. Now, what about the archivists today? You see, despite the fact they know all of this, it's not enough. It's never going to be enough for them. They're not addicts in the same way that the hungry are addicts. But that buzz that's in their head, that constant thrum, that need for information, is never going away. It's never going to go away, because that is magic for them. And when they use their magic, when they fast cast, as they call it, well, that doesn't subdue the buzz. It makes it rapid. It's like listening to a drum beat machine that just suddenly starts into quite an ultra heavy beat. The kind of thing that gets them moving, gives them energy, gives them purpose. When they use magic, they feel that energy. The more knowledge they accumulate, adds another drum loop. Maybe adds another instrument to that tune that's playing inside their head. It's never going to stop. No, they want it to get better. They want an entire orchestra. They want to hear it all. Because for the archivists, knowledge is power. And there's no price too high for true knowledge. Because with it comes true power.